Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha, and I welcome you to another video of mine. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about fighting or getting into arguments or discussions unnecessarily. And this is only because I have a YouTube channel or I have a little bit of a social media presence. So, I'm online and I'm doing things and I'm talking to people and people are talking to me or messaging me about different things. And this is the only reason I'm actually coming up with this idea is because of the fact that I have this social media presence. Because if I didn't, I don't think I'd be so aware of this aspect of myself because I'd just be at home by myself, not talking to that many people. But I do notice that maybe it is a trend in society right now. I have no idea actually what it is or why it happens this way or why people do these things. I'm actually a lot of times very confused by it. But I noticed that certain people will message me on my social media channels or they'll message me on um, like privately just because they want to start a fight with me. Now, I'm not saying that they want to physically fight me, obviously. They don't want to come and be like, hey, let's go, I'm gonna challenge you to a duel. It's not like that. It's just basically verbal sparring. And it might be because people are lonely, it might be because people are sad or alone or have no one to speak to in front of them, around them, or they just can't get that kind of anonymous discussion going with someone around them. They can't just say whatever they want without feeling guilty about it. If there's someone in front of you, right in front of you, it's much harder to say what's on your mind. You have to be social, you have to have social etiquette and you have to control yourself. But with a stranger on the internet, you can just say whatever you want, whatever's on your heart, just let it all spill out and feel that sort of release without worrying about hurting that person because they're just an anonymous person. They don't really mean anything. They're not really anything real. Or you can make it like that in your head. It's much easier to dismiss someone you met online and to treat them poorly. That's the reason why we have so many trolls online, than to treat someone poorly right in front of you. And it's much harder to do that when they're standing right in front of you and you're being unkind to them directly. And so I noticed that this happens a lot to me where I'll get messages from people, comments, messages, whatever it might be, many different things. And they'll be literally only messaging me because they want to start something. Um, and a lot of times it's disguised by the fact that they're like, "Hey, I think I think you'd be you're really intelligent, and I think we could have a really good discussion about this. So let me throw some really terrible dung at you, or some poop at you, and let's see how you react to it. It's kind of, they don't think of it as poop, obviously. They don't think of it as dung. They don't think of it as negative, but it's literally like the most opposite or the worst thing that you could ever say to me. And they throw it at me saying, hey, so what do you think about this? Yeah, let's have a discussion over it. The thing that I really find annoying about this whole situation is that I'm not interested. I'm not interested as an INFJ, as an individual, as a person, as a feminist, as a whatever you want to call me. I'm not interested in having useless discussions with useless people online. I'm not interested in having useless discussions with any kind of people online, useless or not. I'm not interested in having verbal sparring discussions where it's basically just mental masturbation. I'm not interested in having conversations where it's just talking for the sake of talking, right? And I think this is something that I've noticed for a lot of INFJs because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll forward these messages over to my INFJ friends and ask them like, what do you think about this? And every single time they're just surprised, like, doesn't this person have anything better to do? Perhaps they don't. But the reality of it is, as an INFJ, I'd rather be sitting here with nothing to do, staring off into space, than have a discussion or a verbal argument with someone which is not going to result in anything useful. Like, as an INFJ, we're always concerned with saving time, spending time the best way we can, and saving energy for sure, not wasting our energies on nonsense, and not wasting our conversation either on people we don't really care about, right? And so, of course, I'll reply to comments if they really have substance to them, and I do reply to every comment that comes on my channel. But if I notice, and I notice this quite often, especially with men who message me, but sometimes women as well, that sometimes it's just actually a cry for attention, and it's just a lonely call for attention. You know, the person's obviously very lonely, very alone, and has no one in their life to talk to, and they are messaging people online randomly and asking them questions that are completely bogus. And so, of course, part of me wants to engage in the discussion, not because I want to engage in the discussion, but because I feel bad for them. I feel sorry for them. I feel like, oh man, maybe they don't have anyone else to talk to, and if I could just talk to them for a bit, maybe they'd feel less alone. But the reality of it is, and I've tried this in the past, is that it doesn't work out that way. You know, I will, perhaps go into a little bit of a discussion with them, but it just turns into this long ramble and a long waste of time where I spend days and days replying to messages and comments that are completely useless and not engaging me in any way, or not teaching me anything, or not improving me in any way. It's just a waste of time completely. And so in general, as I said, I try to avoid them now. Like, I know now, after having had hundreds of thousands of messages from people, I have a little bit of experience, and I know now when a person is just trying to start something. They're just trying to create a drama or a situation or a discussion or an argument because they're bored or lonely or alone, or bored mostly, actually. And so I just don't engage with it. I just don't even bother with it. I just ignore it. And the funny thing is that, at first I'm fine with ignoring it, but then when the person keeps on saying insulting things to me, I'm like, well, I don't want to stand back and be a pushover, so I need to say something now. But I know it's a trap, because as soon as you say something to these people, they'll just grab and pounce upon it and then use it as ammunition to keep on going, right? Because that's what fuels these people, is conversation and arguments and anger and fear and any kind of negative emotion. And that's what they're trying to stir up within you. So as an INFJ, I notice this a lot with myself, is that I just don't want to bother. I don't want to bother, but then I don't want to be a pushover either. And as always with INFJs, we have these two sides to us, where, I have the warrior side of me that says, hey, I'm going to kick your butt. Hope I can say that on YouTube. And then I have the other side to me, which is the INFJ peaceful warrior side. It says, hey, I know you're suffering, and I'm going to send you some good vibes and some blessings, but I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do this with you. I don't have the time for it, or the energy, or the inclination, or any desire to do that, right? And so yet again, I notice this dichotomy, this kind of two-sidedness to INFJs. And I notice this over and over again. I've done many videos on this, and I've shared many different dichotomies in an INFJ. It's basically like we are two people within one person. And many people have that, I'm sure. But INFJs, it's much more pronounced, because in every situation, you can kind of see two sides to it as an INFJ. Not only that, but also you can see two ways of reacting to it, and two parts of yourselves that will react completely different to the situation. And very naturally, actually, it comes to us very naturally. We can go either way. And sometimes I choose a peaceful warrior side, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna let this go. And sometimes I choose the warrior side, where I'm like, hey, you can't say these kind of things to a person and get away with it. I'm going to put you in your place. And then I waste my time with that. So in general, I wanted to share this with you, because I'm sure some of you as INFJs, even if you're not on a social media channel, you're probably suffering from this dichotomy and suffering from this kind of world we live in, where people sometimes get into these situations where they just want to fight with you. They just want to get a rise out of you. They just want to provoke you, because somehow that gives them power, that makes them feel better about themselves, that makes them say, oh yeah, I'm better than them because I didn't get provoked but they did, or I didn't feel angry but they did, or whatever it might be. So there's many nuances to this, obviously, but I would say, if my warrior side didn't rise up every single time, or a lot of times, because I just can't stand it when people are just being rude without any reason, I would really like to let my peaceful warrior win every single time. I just want peace with a lot of these situations. And a lot of the times I just want to say, hey, can we just keep the peace here? Can we just step back and realize that everything that we're arguing over is absolutely nonsense? There are people dying in this world, there are people starving in this world, there are people who are dealing with much more stuff than we are. Can we just really realize that this is actually a very big waste of our time? of our limited precious time on this planet, can we just understand that there are much more important things to focus on? Can we really just step back and look at it in the bigger manner? Like, let's look at the big picture. Would this argument, this discussion really matter? Does it really matter in the big picture? It doesn't, actually. It doesn't. So it's a waste of our time. And so I really wish I could be that peaceful warrior every single time. I'm not, obviously. As you can tell, I've had many arguments on my channel and my social medias with people. But that is what I'm kind of gearing towards or wanting to move towards. Not that I'm saying I am at all perfect at it or even close to it or even I'm very far away from it. And I have many moments where I want to be kind, but I'm not. And so obviously that's something that I'm very much working on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you have situations like this where people are just irking for a fight and you're like, hey, step back. Take a step back and get away from me. I'm not interested. Do you go through this, or am I the only crazy person here? Alright, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being on my channel. As always, I'm so grateful. By the way, this is the kitchen that I'm in right now in Bali. So this is my kitchen living area. And then the bedroom's over there. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.